Many thanks to our sponsors who make this festival possible. A good goodbye. Funeral planning for those who don't plan to die. That's me. The Bernalillo County and the Indigent Program, the Better Place Forests Organization, Bosque Trails Hospice, Conscious Crossroads End of Life Services, Death Doula Professionals, End of Life Options New Mexico, French Funerals and Cremations, Keeper Memorials, thank you for handling the Zoom on this whole festival, and Passages International. So today's theme is unexpected deaths, and we have a great program lined up for you today. Our first speaker, which I am, you ready? Let's do it. Diane Chavez is the operations manager for general services for Bernalillo County, and they are the folks who handle the indigent program here in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. So we're going to find out all about that, and feel free to ask questions. And come on up, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Good morning, everyone. I'm kind of excited because we don't get to talk about our program. There are not people that want to hear about our program very often until they need us. So I have to say this is a unique opportunity, and I thank you guys all for being here. So as Gail mentioned, I'm the operations manager for Bernalillo County, and I get the opportunity to supervise the Unclaimed Indigent Burial Program, Cremation Burial Program. I am joined by my team here, Christine DeJulio, she's a program coordinator, Maria Marler, she's also a program coordinator, and Rita Gutierrez that just handles everything for us, and she's our receptionist or our administrative assistant. So thank you, team, for being here as well. Much of what I talk about only can be done with because of my awesome team. So thank you. So first slide, please. So Bernalillo County General Services Division administers the Unclaimed Indigent Cremation Burial Program for deceased persons who have passed away within the geographical boundaries of Bernalillo County and is directed by state law. So, in other words, each county in New Mexico is responsible for those that die within their county. They have to take care of that deceased individual if they go unclaimed. And I gotta tell you, there's quite a bit every year, every day that people pass away. And for whatever reason, sometimes that individual died and they're the end of their line. They didn't have children, you know, they were the last living of their line. Sometimes they become completely estranged from family, and we cannot locate that family. And so we'll take care of them. And I gotta tell you, my team, we don't judge why they are unclaimed. We're there to do our best to give them a dignified burial and last disposition. So our mission is to provide a deserved, lawful, proper, and dignified manner of disposition for those decedent residents who are indigent or go unclaimed upon death, and to handle every case accurately and lawfully with the utmost attention. And I truly hope that anyone that hears our program agrees that we keep that mission at heart. So an individual is unclaimed if they have no one to come forward to claim their body. You will see different, thank you, sorry. You will see different ways we initiate unclaimed cases. Keep in mind, decedents are not considered unclaimed if they just don't have family present. There could be family out there, they weren't there at the time of death. That doesn't mean they're unclaimed. So what Bernalillo County does is we guarantee, my team will make sure and do at least 14 days of due diligence is what we call it, but it's really searching for family. We have different ways that we search for family, and I'll go into it a little bit in a minute. But we do complete research on that individual, and most of the time we find family. When I say due diligence, we have different types of search engines that we utilize. My team does a lot of cold calling, where one case, they may do 100 calls to different individuals and say, do you know Jane Smith? Have you heard of Jane Smith? And a lot of times we'll get someone that says, I have a cousin named Jane. And so then we start saying, well, about how old are they? Do you have a date of birth? Anything? And so it just leads us to figure out who that family is. In the search process, we also get to find out about their life. They were an artist, or sometimes they were abused, we find. They were on this great path and had a loss that caused them to go homeless. I mean, there's so many stories we hear, but in those calls and reaching out to family, we hear those stories. My team does an awesome job for Jane Smith. They're not a number to us, they are an individual. Jane becomes like our family. We get to learn their stories. My team handle on average about 250 to 350 cases each year. And they do their best to search day in, day out. These are just a couple of forms that we use when we receive cases from individuals. But the most important thing is on the right, you'll see that we have to get a lot of demographics for these individuals. Because we also are required to fill out these individuals' death certificates. And if we can't find information on them, unfortunately, we have to put a lot of unknowns. So we also want to be as accurate as possible and complete their death certificates to the best of our ability. Now I'm going to go into the other half of our, so we talked about unclaimed. The next part of our cases are what we call unclaimed and indigent cases. So indigent cases, we probably have about 25% of the cases that we have where we have family that say, I am not able to afford a funeral. I'm not able to afford, dealing with the last of for them to be buried. And so after some research and after some eligibility that we go through, we will help families if they absolutely have no financial means to care for that loved one. Unfortunately, I will tell you, this is difficult on families because we do have the families come in. A lot of times it's a parent that will come in and have to sign consents to our program. I will tell you the document that they sign is stating, I do not wish to claim my loved one. Unfortunately, we have to have them sign that because then that allows Bernalillo County to come in and claim that loved one. So we have to have the legal ability to go in and claim. In the cases we can't find anyone, then we take ownership and we claim them. But if there is family out there, we do need them to sign to say, yes, please come forward and take care of my loved one. And I'm sure you guys all have heard costs of funerals have increased so high nowadays. And when a death is unexpected, families are on hard times. Sometimes it is the only option for them. We do hope that we're the final or the last resort option, but it is still an option. And just to let you know, we do hold on to, we will cremate that family member, and we'll hold on to their ashes for 2 years to give that family the ability to come back forward and claim that loved one's ashes. So we definitely want, like, our goal is to reunite that loved one with their family. Again, unfortunately, at the time, within that 2 years, they do have to pay back the county the exact cost that we paid to cremate. By law, we have to do that. Currently, I will tell you, we're paying $1,000 to cremate someone. And so the family would have to pay us $1,000 in that 2 years and get that loved one's ashes. Now we get into what makes an individual eligible for our program. So with Bernalillo County, they do have to be a resident of Bernalillo County for at least the last 6 months. They do have to pass away in Bernalillo County. They can't have assets of value, because if they have assets that equal that $1,000, then they can sell them and pay for that loved one's final wishes. They can't have property, and they cannot have any known family. And again, we don't accept it. It's estranged, not present, or not available. We still need to reach out to the family to get consent. In the event that the decedent's primary resident was not Bernalillo County, say someone was passing through our state and dies, we do our best to reach out and find in that other state their family. But if we can't do so, because they died in Bernalillo County and they're not a resident within our New Mexico counties, then yes, we'll still take custody of them and we'll still bury them. And we definitely take those cases on a case-to-case basis to take care of them. So a lot of people are not aware of what legal next of kin or the hierarchy is when you come to legal next of kin. I want to just briefly go through it. So the first legal next of kin to somebody is their surviving spouse. If they have a surviving spouse, the surviving spouse has to give authority for us to move forward. If they were not married, then we ask if they have adult children. And so if they have adult children, it has to be the majority of those adult children that sign for consent. If they have 5 children, we need at least 3 to sign for our program. If they did not have children, then it goes to the surviving parents. And again, it has to be both parents if both parents are alive. If only one's alive, we get the consent from that one parent. If their parents have already preceded them in death, then we go down to surviving siblings. And again, it's the majority of the surviving siblings. In our due diligence, we definitely have to find out if they were married, adult children, parents, and siblings. Now, the law says that you can go down to an adult person within their kinship or an adult person that's exhibited care for that individual. Unfortunately, Bernalillo County, our legal team has decided we cannot go past siblings. So if they don't have siblings, then they go into the unclaimed section of our program. we won't take the two. Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Sure.
So if it's a partnership, a same-sex relationship, unless they're legally married, that person can't help.
Unfortunately not.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Same sex, opposite sex, boyfriend, girlfriend, unfortunately, that person has no rights. I know people say, why get married? It's a piece of paper.
Is there no common law here? Mexico?
We do have common law in New Mexico, but it does not take effect in regards to death.
Oh,
Wow.
Yes. Nope, they can be boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend for years and years. That individual cannot make decisions upon death. So it's
what if the people legally have the right to medical decisions?
medical decisions that does come into play, unfortunately not on death.
Wow.
Not on death. Good question, thank you. This one is a lot of legal terms, but it does, I still went ahead and left it in, and the reason I did is because this goes to show you what the county does. So the county only does, I mixed up my slides, I'm sorry, but what the county does is all we do is a direct cremation. So even though we had mom and dad come in and sign consents, unfortunately, they can't see the body. We don't do viewings. We don't allow them to attend the cremation or anything. No viewings, no funeral. It is straight cremation, direct cremation. They just sign, and unfortunately, they don't have much to do after that. So that's why we always say this is a last resort program. Here is where we try and do our best to figure out other options for them. We ask a lot of times these individuals, when they pass, they're in a nursing home. They're already with hospice or they're in a hospital. So we always ask those entities to do their best to try and help that family make a plan for their loved one, if possible, before their death. Again, and to Gail's question, remember that power of attorneys don't even work after death. The only thing that we can take after death is a will that says someone can do their final wishes. Power of attorneys, kinship, guardianship, none of those documents work after death. Unfortunately, people come and say, I had power of attorney. And so in the hospital, they were making decisions, but not on death. I misinformed you. Bernalillo County is not a common law state. We are a community property state, but not a common law. Thank you. Okay, so I've kind of touched on timeframes a little bit here and there. This is also important because if the individual comes through our program, it's a lengthy process from beginning to end. I want to say this process takes approximately 4 to 6 months for us to follow our whole process for an individual. So the first part is once we get the case, we do, like I said, no less than 14 days of due diligence trying to locate family and reunite the individual with their family. So that's the first step. The second step, after we've taken care of that individual, we brought them into our custody, we will actually authorize cremation. And so after we cremate, if the family wants to come forward and claim the ashes, they have to wait 90 days. We cannot even take payment in that first 90 days. I will tell you the reason for the waiting period is because we are your taxpayer dollars in this program. You guys are the ones paying for the program. And what we found years back is that people were using us as a cheap way to cremate. They were in our lobby planting flowers, paying for flowers, paying for a memorial place, paying for this and that. And you can hear them as they're asking us to take the body to cremate. And so all they were doing is, it was an abuse of the program. And so our deterrent was to tell them, if you let us take care of your loved one, you still can't have the ashes for 90 days after we cremate. So that was the reason for the 90-day. The second part is before we bury, and you'll hear two different time frames. There's, we keep cremated remains for 1 year if they are a veteran, and 2 years if they're not a veteran. And I would tell you the fact that if they're a veteran, we hold their ashes for 1 year, because after 1 year, the Veterans Administration comes forward and jointly we bury those veterans. All individuals that are not veterans, we hold them for 2 years to give families an opportunity to come forward. Yes, ma'am.
So the body's been cremated, and when you say buried, the cremation remains go where? If they're a veteran?
Prior to burial?
No. You held on to it for 1 year,
Yes.
and now you're gonna partner with the military,
Yes.
right? And you said, we
Will
bury
be buried.
And where do they get buried?
It's actually my next screen. You just took me to my next one.
Okay.
Thank you. So here is what we do for our veterans. This lady just helped me with this screen, so thank you. So back in 2010, Bernalillo County thought, you know what? Just burying individuals, that's not nice. I mean, we're just putting them in the ground with no markers, everything. So when we joined with the Veterans Administration, we created the Forgotten Heroes Burial Program. And so you'll see each year we have the burial, and each year we have so many people. We start in Albuquerque. We do a procession all the way up to Santa Fe. We have law enforcement. All this is volunteer time. We have law enforcement, the state officers, APD, Bernalillo County Sheriff. We have Santa Fe Police. We have Rio Rancho Police. We have tons. And because these veterans all serve from different military branches, we have representatives from every single branch there. We have the Gold Star mothers that attend. The governor gives the eulogy most of the time, or the lieutenant governor. This last time, unfortunately, neither were available, so the cabinet secretary gave the eulogy for these individuals. But you'll notice we even have Legion riders. We have over 100 motorcycles, and it's really awesome. Just I get so, this is a very humbling time because we get to honor these veterans. Motorcycles drive for each person that is buried. So this last year, just so you kind of get perspective, is we buried 42 veterans. Now in September 19th, we just buried 42. 34 of those individuals were from Bernalillo County. And what we recently started doing is offering it up to other counties within our vicinity, saying, hey, we're honoring veterans. Do you want to send any of your veterans over? And so this year, San Juan gave us, sent over 6 veterans. Otero gave us 1 veteran, and Doña Ana gave us 1 veteran. So that was a total of 42 veterans. So for each veteran, if it was a female veteran, a female rider had her name on her motorcycle and she rode up in honor of that veteran. The male veterans had male veterans. And most of the riders, the Legion riders, actually, I think all of them were military veterans. And so sometimes we get to partner up a Marine with the Marine and an Army with an Army. And so it is very humbling and an awesome experience. If you guys can ever join us, it is definitely open to the public and you are welcome to go help us honor those veterans. It's amazing.
Have you set the date for next year's ceremony yet?
Not next year, I will tell you, and if you notice up there, we're always shooting for September. September's just the perfect weather time. And it's right after the state fair and right before Balloon Fiesta and Veterans Day. And so that's been kind of the best time to have it. So I would look in September, and if Gail is okay with it, I can send her that information when we have it. Okay, and maybe she can send it out. So let's talk about what happens to the non-veterans. And these people, they had a rough life. As we're learning about their lives, it struggles. I mean, I know all of you probably have struggles as well. And unfortunately, they went unclaimed in their last days. So in 2012, we said, hey, let's honor the other ones too. Let's at least have a funeral for them, a burial for them with a headstone. Now, unfortunately, the headstone doesn't say their name. It says Bernalillo County residents because so many individuals are in those burials. And I am sad to report this last September, September 26th, we buried our largest number of decedents. We buried 226 people that day. Highest number ever. Prior to that, our highest number was 178 individuals. And that was when we started the program in 2012. So because we had such a large number, we had 4 caskets. We couldn't fit them all into 2 because we always fit in only 2. We couldn't fit. So we had 4 caskets with each individual. We buried twin boys this year. We buried a mother and a daughter this year, and we buried a brother and a sister this year. And I will tell you what we do is the twin brothers, for instance. We had one decedent brother that was eligible last year, but we knew his brother had already died. And so we held him for 1 more year so he could be buried with his brother. Yes, she asked if we have anywhere that lists their names of who is buried in those locations. And so unfortunately, the headstone says Bernalillo County residents of the year that we buried. So that really has no tie to those individuals that are there. The 226 individuals says Bernalillo County residents of 2024. Well, they died 2 years prior. One died 3 years prior. So unfortunately not. Their names are listed on our website. We do have where those are hyperlinks on our website, so you can click on it and you can see who's buried in those locations. However, I do want to say, when we started this program, we started at Evangelico Cemetery, which is in the South Valley. And so the first 3 burials, 2012, 13, and 15, are at Evangelico. And what we just did is we just purchased an obelisk a stone that goes upright that has 4 sides. And we're putting everybody's name on there for the year that they're at. And we're gonna have it at the cemetery. So you can actually go to the headstone, see 2012, go to the names and see the individual's name on there. Yes, ma'am. So she asked, out of the 226 individuals, if we can tell what the cause of death was. So unfortunately, not always can we tell cause of death. Sometimes it's not even determined at the time we take the case because it's still being dealt with. But ladies, do you have a thought in cause of death more often?
The doctor has to sign off on the rescue, and they're responsible for the death.
But do you see a pattern of what? So I'm sorry, and I'm calling on my team because they're the ones that see. And she said that the doctor signs the cause of death. And so they're the ones that make sure that the cause of death is accurate. But are you guys seeing a pattern of what cause of death? There's overdoses, drug overdoses, quite a bit. There's quite a few of natural causes. It's not always suspicious. I will tell you, a lot of people think that we've seen just a large flux of COVID deaths, but we didn't see that many. I will tell you the reason for the 226 this year, though. So if you remember, I said these individuals have been dead for 2 years, right? Because we held them for 2 years. So these individuals died in around 21-22 timeframe. Back then, OMI had such a capacity issue back in 21-22. They were so over capacity that they unfortunately had to have individuals out in refrigerated trucks outside as well because they were so over capacity. Well, what the governor did is she declared natural disaster in regards to decedent bodies. So what they did is they sent in FEMA to come in and help New Mexico process these deceased. And so FEMA deployed a DMOR team. It's Disaster Mortuary Operational Team. They deployed a team of 40 individuals that came to New Mexico. And what they did is they put some individuals at OMI and some individuals at Bernalillo County because the larger number of decedents were Bernalillo counties. So we had to process a lot of cases after another, really pretty quick. We still wouldn't deter on our 14 days due diligence. We wanted family. So we were still looking for family, but that caused the influx of cases that we're bearing this year. So I don't think we'll ever hit 220. I pray we never hit 226 ever again. But that was the cause of such a large number. Yes, ma'am. The question is if I have a percentage of Jane Doe or John Smith individuals. So I will tell you, when they come to us, they have a name. So everyone we receive, we have a name to that individual. OMI cannot send us a Jane Doe. We won't.
So they stay at OMI.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
They retain Jane Doe and John Doe's, they retain them. And every so often they'll run another DNA check to see if they can figure out that individual. So even though everyone has a name that come to us, if you think about it, Diane Chavez, very common name. So they may send a Diane Chavez and it's almost impossible to find out who I'm truly related to. So out of the individuals we receive that have names, about 75%, we still can't locate family. It is a very high percentage. We do have, just real quick, sorry, we do have individuals that I will tell you, and I'm sorry to say this, but it helps you understand what my team hears, is I've made a call to a brother and said, your brother died, and he says, I don't care, throw him in the dumpster for all I care. Won't sign, won't nothing. So he's unclaimed. He would go in that 75%, even though we located somebody, they just don't want to deal with him. So, yes, ma'am. The Jane Doe and John Doe's, not indefinitely. I think they have the Maxwell House, and OMI is gonna be speaking next. I'm sorry, the question was, do they keep Jane Doe's and John Doe's indefinitely? OMI is gonna be up next, so that would definitely be a good question for them. But I think they touch that case every so often to see if they can locate a name. I will tell you that this PowerPoint was, thank you, ma'am. This PowerPoint was mainly set up originally for nursing homes, nursing homes, hospice workers, and hospitals. So this is what Bernalillo County asks those entities to do. And so we tell them, if possible, if family are there with the loved one as they're passing, have them call our program. So if you guys know anybody and they're passing, please have them call us. I'll actually put our contact information up there, but even if you call Bernalillo County and ask for our program, they'll direct them. If it's during county hours, we take them. We'll do an immediate pickup, like we don't leave the body there as we're trying to locate family. We'll pick them up right away. We'll act just like a funeral home at that point, to be honest. Something I didn't mention is we contract with the funeral home. So we have a professional service that is actually doing half of this work. Good relationship with our current funeral home. So we ask them to refer, we ask for information. So that just kind of tells you what we ask them to do.
Can I ask which funeral home that is?
Sure. So currently, we are contracted with Director's Choice, which is also Noblin Funeral Services. The owner is Robert Noblin, and he's actually the mayor of Belen. That team, we have such a great relationship with them. We can call them all hours of the night and they're there to help us. So they're amazing, amazing individuals.
And I believe actually their services to the public are also probably the lowest price in the market.
You are correct.
Yeah.
They have an online service that individuals can actually that can order a whole entire funeral service, viewing everything, do everything you normally would when somebody dies. They have it all. If you do it online, it's even less expensive, and Gail's right, they're one of the lowest. Inexpensive, but still quality, I have to say. Okay. Sure.
When you say impossible, have the family call ahead to inquire about the program, you're referring to the indigent program?
Yes, our Unclaimed Indigent Program. That way we can share. We also try and tell them, here's some lower cost areas that we've heard. We also know, unfortunately, when individuals call and they're calling about their loved one, when they call a funeral home, the funeral home's upselling things, but you don't realize they're upselling. They're like, do you want 10 death certificates? Do you want, what type of casket? Do you want, so all of those cost money. And we try when somebody says, I really don't have funding to pay for my loved one, we tell them, ask for a direct cremation. Ask for, just one viewing. If you absolutely need a viewing, each one of those costs money. So we try and help them and talk to them. Those online, we just had some technical difficulty. But so you didn't miss anything, we kind of paused for a minute. So, and it almost happened at perfect timing, because to be honest, we're just about done. So next slide is questions. Any other questions? So the question is, my slide had said to have the family or, the nursing home or assisted living, if they're not on hospice, that they were instructed that they would call OMI and not our county program. And the answer to your question is, OMI is going through this larger change, and it's jurisdictional cases is what it's called. And so what OMI is trying to do in order to streamline their processes is, if an individual passed of nothing suspicious, they're no longer having them call OMI. So that's a big change. Big change and good question. So what they're trying to do it even with law enforcement. If they know that somebody died, they go to a home and there's nothing suspicious there, they're trying to tell them you need to deal with a funeral home. Well, if nobody's there, they're really dealing with the county. But yeah, so that's what's going on right now.
So then who will sign the death certificate? Who will do the death announcement?
So what they're doing is they're going to have their primary care individual or their primary doctor sign, if at all possible. And that is actually the hardest part to it, because at this point they're trying to do, they'll send them to a funeral home, and then the funeral home ends up asking that question. But they're going to have their primary care, if possible, sign those death certificates. If not, OMI has agreed to sign if they need to. Yeah, very true. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, earlier at the start, you said, that there's this form that if the family doesn't want to take care of their loved one, they sign a form that says can't afford, I don't love this individual. And, there's a difference between I can't afford versus I don't love. So.
I agree. The question is one of our forms. She was saying that it says I don't love, and it could say I can't afford to this individual. It actually says I do not wish to claim this individual. I know that hits on people's hearts, because it does sound like I don't love. I don't want them. Unfortunately, it says I do not wish to claim them. And that's the legal term that we need to come in and claim them.
Yeah.
So, good question, sorry. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Well, I was just gonna say, sort of as related, but as an aside, in our community since COVID, there's been a number of families who have launched, or someone on their behalf has launched a GoFundMe campaign on Facebook specifically to pay for funeral expenses. And, typically that'll be in a family where the primary breadwinner is suddenly gone. You know, whether it's COVID or an auto accident or whatever, and there just literally aren't funds to, you know, cover the cost of the funeral. So that is another option. When you were talking about options before, and that is another option, and it's been really successful in our community.
I agree. That is something that they'll mention is GoFundMe. You know that the New Mexico State actually offers, I believe it's $400 reimbursement for burials. So there's that one program. It is a reimbursement, so you have to pay and then apply and get that back. So we do have that for New Mexico for the state of New Mexico. Churches will also sometimes assist. I know press, if they died at press, sometimes press has a fund that they can assist with. Any other ones you can think of off the top of your head, ladies? So we do try and give some other ones as well, but we appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Many of us have attended the range of talks, one of which being green burials. And in the olden days, you know, when influenza or whatever in the 1800s, 1900s, there would be, in a way, green burials, meaning you did not cremate them. And when you were referencing the cremations cost $1,000 per. So has the city ever thought about having land that was designated for green burials for the indigent? They can still be honored and respected. There still could be an obelisk, but it would bypass the cremation.
So we've talked, her question was, has Bernalillo County ever looked into green burials with the same dignified and respectful burials? And yes, we have. But if you look at our numbers, just in the last, just say 12 years, you're looking at entered where we've actually buried individuals, 1,300.
Nice.
And then in veterans, now veterans get their own headstone, everything. They get their own beautiful urn. I don't know if you guys seen it on there with their name engraved on it, and they get a headstone that's from their military service. But when you talk about non-military individuals, you're talking like even this year, 226, we would have taken up land in such a short time, but we had talked about it. Thank you.
It's also a timing issue because you will hold the ashes for 2 years, so you can't hold the body.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. She said it's also a timing issue. If we did a green burial, we would have to hold the body for 2 years, and we don't have the storage capacity for that. I will tell you, when we get them from OMI, because they also try and, you know, they have to do their DNA, they have to do their all the forensic and the pathology and all that stuff, that sometimes when we get a body from OMI, they've already been deceased for months. So when we get them, it's a pretty quick, we need to cremate them very quickly because the body cannot survive that long, even with proper refrigeration. So, well, I want to tell you,
Are they kind of decomposed by that time when you get them?
on occasion, we have received a body that was almost a year old. And at that point, yes, they are pretty in pretty bad shape. Yeah, unfortunately. So Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you.